Yo, what's up guys, it is Tom and welcome back to a brand new video and episode number 3 of my F1 2016 career mode here for season 2, aka part 24 of my career mode series. And we're here for China for the Chinese Grand Prix. Now before we jump into it guys, I just want to say I do apologise for the lack of replay cams in this video because there are literally none, and the reason being is because I actually had a severe problem with my game, and it seems like the game is not liking the mods at the moment and it keeps on crashing my game. So I had to get this race recorded however I possibly could, and I'm looking into the problem right now as I speak. So hopefully I can find a solution, and hopefully for the next race in Sochi we have no further problems. But overall, just looking at practice quickly, and we switched up the order. I actually started off with the track acclimatization, and then we moved on to the qualifying test, and finally we did the tyre wear test, and we managed to smash all 3 practice programs with no problems whatsoever around a track that, you know, even though it's known for its tyre wear, we didn't have any serious problems. So far a decent practice session, but with this we're going to move into qualifying to see how things shape up for the Chinese Grand Prix.
Hey, looks like you've got a bit of rivalry going on out there. This is good, gets people talking about you. Just make sure you outperform them, okay?
So, moving into qualifying here on a Saturday afternoon in China, and the Shanghai circuit looking nice and beautiful today with nice sunny skies, which should hopefully help us out. However, there is a prediction for rain later on in the session, so we're going to have to keep an eye out for that. But so far, so good as we breeze through Q1 on a super soft tyre in P3 there, and then later on by the end of the session we'd eventually drop down to P6 with Kimi Raikkonen actually going fastest in that first part of qualifying, as we now move swiftly onto Q2 where the rain was making an appearance. And right now, as you can see, I'm going to finish my lap on soft tyres and actually manage to qualify quite comfortably inside the top 10. Literally, as I cross the line, the rain is starting to come down, so we managed to time that absolutely beautifully, and we're going to get through to Q3 comfortably on the soft tyre there in P3. So a nicely timed lap in Q2 gets us through quite comfortably. And speaking of the rain before, we're now going to move into Q3, and I've got to say the lap was absolutely blistering. It was an incredible lap time in the wet conditions, and as you'll see now coming through the final corner, the lap was so good. The car I felt to one with the car. As you can see, coming across the line, we set a brilliant, a blistering lap time, and we're over a second faster from Lewis Hamilton. So an incredible qualifying lap. But as you can see there, just such a quick lap time, a 48.4 I believe from my little screen that I can see, 1.2 faster than Nico Rosberg. So an incredible lap time there in Q3 to secure a pole position for the Chinese Grand Prix, and hopefully, unlike Bahrain, we could try and convert this one to a race win. So let's get into the race for the Chinese Grand Prix. So here we are then on a pretty dry Sunday afternoon, and it looks like there's no rain expected. However, it's going to be a pretty overcast race. Fingers crossed we can try and convert a pole position into a win, unlike Bahrain where we absolutely bottled it to Daniel Ricciardo. And I've got to say, the Red Bull's not looking that strong this weekend, and the Mercedes looking fairly resurgent, so it should be an interesting race. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into the race for the Chinese Grand Prix, and let's hope we can try and pick up a nice big 25 points and our first win of the season. Right, so here we go then. It's race day for the Chinese Grand Prix. Now I can tell you, I've actually recorded this entire race once before, and I was recording the replay cameras and my game crashed. So I really don't want to have to do this thing again. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get the result and try to have a successful race. Now the strategy I'm going to go for, which I've already done once before like I said, is basically the one you can see on the screen right now. I'm going to try and drag out the first stint on the soft tyres out as much as I can, and then go on to another set of soft tyres for another 8 laps, and then eventually onto the medium tyres until the end of the race. We've got overcast conditions throughout the entire race, so there shouldn't be any rain expected, and also I'm running quite a low amount of fuel because now that we've got a few fuel efficiency upgrades. That's quite a bit of a tongue twister to say. We've got a few of those upgrades for the fuel efficiency, which should help us out with fuel consumption, so we can afford to run a little bit less fuel and be a little bit more aggressive. So fingers crossed we can get the result that we need here at Shanghai, and fingers crossed we can try and get our first win of the season. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into the Chinese Grand Prix. Right, here we go then. The 5 red lights are coming on now for the Chinese Grand Prix, and it's going to be Lights out and away we go. We're going to try and pick up a nice start, a nice bit of traction here off the line. Getting a bit of a squirmy exit, but it looks like we've got nobody challenging us into turn 1, which is crucial. And we can try and set some pace from the office. We've got a yellow flag behind for some reason, and it looks like someone's had a bit of an off through turn 1. Also, there's another car I can see is backwards on the mini-map, and we've got a safety car. So a safety car here to kick things off for the Chinese Grand Prix. So a massive crash in turn 1, which I'll probably get a replay up on screen right now, but a pretty decent crash at turn 1. Then we're going to look at a replay now to see what happened. Okay, so the safety car's coming in this lap right now. I'm just bunching the pack up, and as soon as I get told to go, I'm going to absolutely shoot off into the distance. So I think we're going to get ready to go any second now. The safety car's going into the pit lane, so it's going to be race time any second. Then here we go, prepared to resume racing, and I think we can actually go at full speed now. So I'm just going to floor it and try and get some good traction, and away we go for the restart. And now it's going to be a case of trying to establish a gap between myself and Lewis Hamilton. Now, in the trial race that I did where my game crashed, my pace was absolutely incredible, so I feel really confident with the car. The car is in an absolutely incredible sweet spot at the moment, so I'm confident that I can do that once again and try and replicate that sort of pace. So fingers crossed we can try and pull that off, because we've got a couple of people who are pretty good fast runners like Raikkonen who have actually pit, and they're right at the back of the pack. So there are much better strategies now, because I'm going to have to open up a gap and try and stretch it out to them. So hopefully when I pit, that I'll still be ahead of those guys. So without further ado, let's try and set some purple lap times. I've got to say, the Mercedes is a much improved package this race, and the Red Bull aren't as dominant as the first two races. This weekend Mercedes have looked much more on the pace, and the Red Bulls have been nowhere to be seen. And as I'll say that, another fast lap of the race as Hamilton actually pits, so he's had enough of his soft tyres. I'm going to try and go maybe this lap, if not one more, try and stretch this stint out, because I feel like even though Hamilton's going for the undercut on me, I think it's crucial that I get this stint as long as I can. So I'm just going to try and stretch it out. I might pit in this lap depending on what my lap is like. If I'm still doing purple sectors, then I'm going to stay up one more lap. This is really good pace straight off the bat here. I've still got a little bit of luck left in these tyres, so I'm going to stay up one more lap, maybe even another one, because I'm only on about 35% wear. So the longer I keep this stint going, the better for me. However, I do believe I'm going to pit at the end of this lap. Right, here we go then. We're going to come in for our first stop of the race. Make sure that we push this entry as much as possible. Try and pick up the traction here. Now slow it down for the entry. Get it also down for the speed limit. And it looks like we have done quite nicely. And now it's a question of where will Lewis Hamilton be? Did he get caught up in traffic or did he not? Let's have a look and see. But we've got a terrible pit stop. 2.8. Not a good stop there whatsoever. And now it's a question of where is Lewis Hamilton now? I think so far we could be ahead. There's Alonso and there's Sainz now, and I think we might still be ahead of Hamilton here. I think he might have caught up in a bit of traffic as Sainz gets past us, and Grosjean's the next car, so Hamilton nowhere to be seen as we go back up the inside of Sainz, and we get that position back straight away. So Hamilton getting caught up in traffic and not making the undercut work, which is absolutely perfect for us, which means we can now push really hard on these tyres. I've got to say, this car feels absolutely incredible now. Now that we've got a few upgrades on the car compared to the first two races, this is the potential that I expected from the Ferrari car. It's just so dialed in, so drilled in. Everything's working beautifully, and it's all just flowing so nicely, and it's such a satisfying car to drive. And even though this is my most hated track, it's definitely really enjoyable to drive with this sort of car underneath me, and it's just such a joy. And overall, I'm so pleased to be driving this car. As you can see, a fastest lap of the race there, even though I made a mistake through the final corner, just justifying my point. And we're really starting to dominate this race here. Here we are then, catching up to Kevin Magnussen in his brand new Haas team, and he's doing a stellar performance on those medium tyres. However, I'm flying behind him on these softs, and I've just tucked into a little bit of rich mix to try and go even faster, and he's starting to hold me up. So we're going to try and get past the young Dane here, and hopefully try and make light work of him, and hopefully with the assistance of some DRS we should be past him fairly quickly here. Just going to try and set myself up for a nice run through the banking here. I'm going to try and pick up the traction. The back end want to snap out on me, but crucially the car pretty much holds on, and I've got to say the car is so good to drive. It's absolutely fantastic. It's so good to have such a good car underneath you, and so far I'm driving one of my best races I think I've ever driven personally in my experience, as we get past Magnussen there for P1, running a bit deep there on the braking, and I think he's going to try and sneak his nose back up the inside, but we should pick up the traction, and there we go, we stay ahead of him, and we take the lead of the race. So great stuff there, overtaking Magnussen, who actually peels off into the pit lane, and we can now once again get back onto pushing as hard as we can on these tyres. Oh, Bottas is out of the Chinese Grand Prix, So that's the second retirement of the race. Will that trigger some sort of safety car? And yes, it has. So for the second time this race, we've got a safety car. And what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to pit for a set of medium tyres right now. So we're just going to slow it down, make sure that we hit the delta. And we're going to come in this lap for a set of mediums. So as you can see, we've been given the change strategy option, and I'm going to confirm the change there. It doesn't really matter too much because we are coming into the pit lane. So we're just going to pit this lap now, and hopefully we can have a nice quick pit stop and not lose too much time. So here we go then. Just make sure that we hit the speed limit, and there we go. We're now going to come in for a set of medium tyres and then just go to the end basically. So fairly standard affair, fairly simple, and we should be okay. A 1.7 stop there. I've actually been put on super soft, so that's not what I wanted. I could have sworn the strategy said mediums and then super softs. So I've been royally screwed over here. So this has not gone well and has not gone to plan. So I'm going to have to do something else here. I think I'm going to have to come back in and come in for mediums. The problem is I'm going to lose a lot of positions. So I'm going to see how this all pans out by the end of the lap. Okay, even though I'm in the race lead and I'm behind the safety car, I'm actually going to give up my race lead by coming into the pit lane and actually coming in for a set of mediums. I've decided and I've thought about the best possible option, and I believe this is it. So we're just going to try and push this pit entry as much as we can, and just have a nice quick pit stop onto mediums, and hopefully that will get the job done for us. I think we're going to get held up here by the car that's coming behind us. Can we try and get out ahead of it, please? No, we can't. We're going to lose a little bit of time. So a 3.1 pit stop getting stuck behind Van Dorn, but let's see where we rejoin on the track. Crucially, if we can just rejoin in not too much traffic and not lose too many positions, that'd be nice. P8 would be quite nice, and I think that is exactly where we're going to rejoin. And I think I'm the only person in the top 8 who's on medium tyres going to the end, so we might have just salvaged a very sticky situation, which would have been stopping once again. So that wasn't the original strategy. For some reason I've got it all wrong. I could have sworn it was mediums and then super softs, but for some reason I got put on super soft straight away. So bit of a confusion there in amongst the team, but either way we're back out on track on medium tyres in P8, and we can now go to the end of the race on these tyres. Okay, so the safety car is coming in this lap. Once again, the safety car is literally about to peel off into the pit lane, so we should be going racing any second, pretty much near to the hairpin. We're right behind Alonso. I'm in rich mix now. We should be able to go rich right to the end of the race, so fingers crossed we should have enough fuel, and hopefully it can all go well. Luckily we've got a Haas in the lead of Magnussen there, which should hold up the pack a little bit, and that should help us in terms of pushing through the pack. Obviously we've got a lot of guys on super softs, so we'll be fairly quick, but hopefully, fingers crossed. Actually, no, some of them actually peel in. I was just going to say, hopefully some of them pit, and some of them have actually pit. So that's going to give us a few positions here. But let's see if we can try and push on this medium tyre straight off the bat here. Going to try and make a move on Alonso into turn 1. Going to stick my nose up the inside. Alonso keeping it nice and tight, but we are going to squeeze up the inside. Actually running really deep there into the second half of the apex, which allows Alonso to slice back underneath me. But I'm just going to go defensive, park my car on the inside, and there we are up in at P5. So nice little restart there, getting 3 positions. Obviously 2 of them were because of the pit stop, but either way I'll take them however they come. And Hamilton, I've just noticed, is actually pit, so I thought it was actually Magnussen who pit, but it's actually Hamilton who pit from the front guys. So let's see if we can try and push in these mediums. I'm not expecting to be on the same pace as the guys ahead of me on super softs, but we can give it a fair old crack and see what happens. Okay, I'm right on Sainz's gearbox here. I'm going to try and set myself up for a nice run through the banking, and this should be a fairly straightforward overtake on the young Spaniard on the back straight here with some DRS assistance. And here we go then, we're right in rich mix. The car's nice and light with fuel, and actually DRS isn't enabled yet, but we're not going to need it as we fly past Carlos Sainz. Can we just get ahead of him? Yes we can, and we can retake the racing line before the braking zone into the hairpin. So up into P2, and there's Kevin Magnussen, who's actually dropping back a little bit, and his pace isn't particularly great, so we should be able to get past him fairly quickly, I feel, and then we'll be back into the lead of the race where we belong, because we've been so dominant this race, and the pace, as you can see, has been absolutely incredible, and I thoroughly deserve 25 points. Okay, here we go then, right on the back of Kevin Magnussen. DRS is now enabled, and I do want to say, you can now tell with all the upgrades they get put onto the car, you can actually really notice the difference between compared to Season 1 and how fast the cars are getting, because they're just visibly, and also they just feel so much faster compared to Season 1, and it's so good to see the progression really make a difference, and you can really feel the R&D, which is such a good touch from Codemasters. And I want to know from you guys in the comments down below, have you noticed the progression if you've gone more than a couple of seasons? Do you think it's a good feeling, how you can actually feel the cars going so much quicker? And I'm just curious overall, so let me know in the comments down below what you think. But overall, I actually quite like the progression and how the cars get faster and faster, and it's satisfying to actually feel that and also see it in the lap times. here we go then, the penultimate corner. I've had to re-record this race twice, and I've also had a couple of game crashes, but finally I'm going to get this race done and dusted, and I've dominated every single time. Here we go, we win the Chinese Grand Prix, our first win of the season, and in my opinion, that is one of my greatest performances for myself personally as a driver. I've never felt so comfortable or so dominant or so consistent in my life as a racing driver when it comes to racing Codemasters F1 games, and I'm really satisfied with that performance. What a win, such a satisfying victory, and overall that is a well-deserved 25 points to me, and I will happily take those points, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we might take the championship lead, so I have to wait and see how that pans out. But overall, a great race, a great result, and overall a result I can be really pleased of, and overall a dominant Chinese Grand Prix. And I've never enjoyed racing around China so much, but either way, as you can see, looking at the podium, 2 Ferraris in the podium and 1 Mercedes, which is Mr. Lewis Hamilton on by my side. But overall 25 points for the Chinese Grand Prix and a solid result, and we take the championship lead, I believe, or if not, we're going to get very close to the man standing to my right. So overall a good race, and we're now going to move into the final part of the video. So, as you can see, after the race, we would actually go ahead and purchase a downforce upgrade, which should, in theory, make us the fastest team on the grid. So, a pretty important race there to try and get us to the top of the pile in the Prancing Horse. But overall, hope you guys did enjoy the video, and if you did, a massive thumbs up would be greatly appreciated. Once again, I do apologise for the lack of replay cams. Hopefully, normal service will be resumed next week. For the next episode. Also, I'm right in the middle of exams, so if the uploads aren't as quick as I'd like them to be, I do apologise, but I'm right in the middle of an exam period, so I do apologise for the lack of uploads. But nevertheless, guys, also if you're new around here, if you could subscribe to my channel, that'd be absolutely fantastic as we're pushing towards 6,000 subscribers. But yeah, guys, that's about this video. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in my next one very soon. Goodbye.